Mr. Deutch is recognized. I know we have other speakers as well.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I had some questions for the amendment sponsor. I'm just trying to understand, and it's been a long time since last night when we had an awful lot of discussion about the overwhelmingly bipartisan support for transparency. That it seems like a long time ago, and the offering of this amendment makes it seem even in the more distant past. What is it that's burdensome about requiring a contractor who wants to do business with our government from simply telling us whether they've made contributions or have been engaged in electioneering? Why is this hard to accomplish?
Well, first of all, under current law, under current constitutional precedent, the ability to give and to contribute is protected. It is exercising your First Amendment right. It's already disclosed. When you give to someone, it is disclosed in that in a candidate's filing or a party's filing.
Well, reclaiming my time, I have to correct the gentleman. My understanding, if I am correct, of the Citizens United case is that there are no bars, no limits on contributions from corporations, and there are no requirements to disclose. And in fact, the Disclose Act, which this Congress failed to pass last session, would have required that. On what basis does the gentleman suggest that political contributions are already disclosed? And if they are, I'd like to understand, and if they're not, perhaps the gentleman will offer some bipartisan support to move legislation to require the disclosure.
Sure. Well, I'm sure I assume you receive PAC contributions. I receive PAC contributions. I report them on my form. They are disclosed. In any event, the core problem of this is the problem pointed out by your whip, with which I agree, the House Democratic whip, Steny Hoyer, who has said it's not a requirement now, and it shouldn't be. It injects
reclaiming my time. The fact that campaign committees of members of Congress have to disclose contributions that we receive is not the same, cannot be viewed the same way as this language which makes it impossible for us to require the disclosure of electioneering communications generally. Electioneering communication that is made by the entity. Just to be clear, what this amendment does is it says that any company of any size that wants to enter into a contract with the United States government is free to spend unlimited sums of money helping to elect members of the United States House of Representatives and the United States Senate, and that they are prohibited. This amendment and this committee will prohibit our ability to know how those dollars are being spent. And I can't for the life of me understand that while it may be constitutional precedent that companies have the ability to contribute, that this is a constitutional precedent that many of us, both in this Congress and throughout this country, believe is a precedent that is dangerous to the future of democracy, that makes it harder for the American people to have faith in the operation of the campaign system, and prohibiting a requirement that we simply know what is being contributed to help influence the outcome of elections. It seems to me flies in the face of all of the good discussion that we had yesterday about transparency and the need for greater transparency. This goes the opposite direction, and I would urge my colleagues on this committee to oppose this amendment. I yield back.
The gentleman yields back, and Mr. Mack is recognized.
Thank you. And again, sometimes, so maybe another question needs to be asked. Why do they seek this information? I mean, is it illegal to make those contributions? You know, I think the problem here is it smacks of politics, that you want to have to make these disclosures is more of a way to intimidate and manipulate.
Will the gentleman yield for an answer?
Not yet. So the idea that you talk about transparency. Maybe we need a little more transparency on the intent. Why do they need that information? I mean, it seems to me that there's probably other information that would be more critical than doing something that is protected under free speech to participate in the political process, something we ought to be encouraging people to do. And yet, my colleague from Florida seems to think that this amendment in some way would destroy the freedom of speech. What I don't get here is, so you say the question, or the question is raised about transparency, but you're failing to ask the real question is why? Why do you need the information? And I'd yield to the gentleman if he can answer that.
I thank my colleague from Florida. The reason that the reason that transparency is important, the reason that it would be helpful to the American people to know what contributions corporations who wish to enter into contracts with the government, what contributions they're making, what expenditures they're making for electioneering communications, is the very same reason that the amendment sponsor points out we have to disclose those who contribute to us.
Reclaiming my time. Is it illegal? Is there something wrong with an individual or a corporation to make a contribution?
Gentleman,
yielding for a response. Thank you. This does not prohibit contributions. It simply requires disclosure. The reason that
reclaiming my time. This is intimidation. This isn't transparency. This is intimidation. So if a company wants to do business or get a contract, and they might have, let's say, contributed to someone's political opponent, that they feel that we might not get this. This isn't about transparency. This is I don't understand I don't understand in America where we want to encourage people to participate in the process of communicating and electing and voting in our government. Why you need to gather this information in an attempt just to intimidate. And I think what most people feel is, let's call it what it is. What most people feel is, if this is a way to say, hey, if you're going to give to them, you better give to us, because if not, you might not get a contract. I mean, this is something that you expect to see in other places. I don't think you expect to see that here, and I would yield the remainder of my time to Mr. Griffin.
At its core, this has really nothing to do with transparency, because the executive order is not seeking to obtain this information so that the American people can see it. If the American people want to know who John Smith, CEO of whatever company, gives to, they can find that out. That's public information. That's transparency. What's the point behind this? This is so they are disclosed to the people considering who to hire. That's what this is about. This is not about transparency. That's a joke. And we all know that this is not about whether a corporation can give to an individual candidate. They can't. Ford company can't write me a big check, and even if they did, I would have to disclose it.
I thank the gentleman, and Mr. Mack's time is over.